The IP Investments and Markets Conference, I think it's a good mix, that it's not all lawyer-centric, so it's a good mix of business guys and money guys, and I think it would definitely be a forum I'd want to come to in the future.
Anytime you're talking about intellectual property, typically you're on the cutting edge of what you think the future may be from a technology standpoint, from a mechanical standpoint, from a services standpoint. Several of the talks, the discussions have helped confirm the direction of my business and what it is that we're considering, what we're looking at, and the direction that we're going in. I think that the intellectual property market as a whole is kind of like the wild, wild west. So there's many different models. And if you take as a whole what we've seen, what we've heard so far, you start to identify that there are certain trends that are coming into the marketplace, and it's nice to be part of the front edge of those trends.
I've been finding the conference to be very interesting, some good discussions, some good insight into the common problems that we all face in the intellectual property world. It's relatively immature, concepts are developing, ways of doing business are developing, and so I think events like this where people who have developed expertise in the field can get together and can share their perspectives and opinions helps us to mature the industry and make it more productive and profitable and beneficial for everybody.
I couldn't pin it down to one individual or one event. So far the day has been very enlightening for me, being that I focus on intellectual property more from the, I guess if you will, the collateral side of things, and looking at it as from a business perspective of how are folks going to utilize that IP to repay my loans that I put out to them. This is fascinating for me to see it from the other end, from people that are either A, creating it, or B, amalgamating it in ways in terms of portfolios to create even further value behind some of the intellectual property that's there. It's just been a side of the IP facet that I normally don't get to look through. This is very unique. I've been to more conferences as a banker for banking and other businesses that I care to count, and this conference is absolutely one of a kind. You don't find events like this. All the thought leaders are here.
We try to help some SMEs in China to raise capital with their IPs, but we're finding many difficulties because traditional financial institutions, they do not realize the importance of IP. They cannot recognize the value of IPs. After today's meeting, I think we will go back to China and we try to explain to most of the audience, most of the traditional or commercial banks, and tell them that IP is very important. And we have some methodologies might be helping them to evaluate IPs.
I think this is a very good conference. It's a small venue, allows much more intimate discussions and conversation with your peers, your colleagues in the industry, and I enjoy coming here. Certainly recommend it to my colleagues for the next year.
This conference is very different than other conferences that I've attended. Other conferences has briefly touched the subject but not gone into depth. This conference has really gone into depth in a number of areas of interest in IP valuation, IP diversification through whether you're going to sell it, make it available to markets, license it, or whatever. So it's been very helpful.
I have learned some things that I'm going to incorporate into my business, but I don't want to talk about them publicly.
But I think anybody who is interested in what might be in the area of intellectual property, big data, the increasing liquidity of intellectual property markets should definitely be here. To me, this is the best IP conference I've ever participated in.
The conference is one of the best that I've been to in probably the last decade. The topics have been highly relevant. The focus on the intersection between investment and intellectual property is unusual, badly needed in the industry, and it's been highly valuable. There's a very high level of attendees. It's very rare to see this caliber present. The only other one that I can really think of is the Intellectual Property Business Congress. It's a much larger conference and therefore much more difficult to interact with people as meaningfully as this conference has provided.
We've been very surprised, like I said. Didn't really know what to expect, so surprised in a good way, and I think there's been a lot of good debate and dialogue covering a lot of areas. There's a lot of people in the audience, and you've got a range of people, so I think it's been a good broad range, and it's covered a lot of topics, and it's been very good, very helpful.